Hello everybody! Infernape Shinjo here, and welcome back to the series that I totally didn't forget was a thing, my top 10 Pokemon of every generation. So when I did Alolamons, that was crazy enough, I don't even think Sword and Shield were even announced at that point, because I went back to watch the video and I didn't mention anything about Sword and Shield. But it's been a few months with Sword and Shield being out, so I figure it's a good time to make my top 10 Mons of the Galar region. Now, I didn't mention this in the Alola video. I'm not sure if I had a reason for it, but since I didn't include Alolan forms in that video, I'm not going to include Galarian forms in this video, because I feel like those two deserve their own list, if anything. Even so, I'm not sure if there's enough Galarian forms and Alolan forms to make their own separate videos. If anything, maybe a top 5 instead of a top 10. But regardless, I am super excited to bring you this video, although there are a couple of points I want to go over before I get into this. First of all of these picks are essentially going to be based off of my own personal run-through that I had of Sword and Shield when it first came out. And when I did do that, I did it in a bit of an unconventional approach, because at the moment when the final evos of the starters were revealed, I wasn't too keen on any of them one way or the other, so I decided to ditch my starter and pick a Mon from Route 1, which is in this list, to be my unofficial starter, and run through the game like that. And I switched out party members multiple times. Although every member that I had on that team isn't here. For example, I had a Grapploct on my team, but that's not on my list. If anything, an honorable mention. But if anything, I feel like Galar proves that you don't have to have a super expansive Pokédex to prove that there are good designs. Like, I don't know the ratio, but Galar has one of the smaller dexes, maybe like second to Kalos. I'm not sure about which one has more or less, but even though it's a smaller dex than usual, a lot of the Mons are really cool in my opinion. So to start off, we have everybody's favorite dessert, Alcremie. Now, Alcremie was a member of my team, but I feel like because of a combination of I wasn't sure how exactly to use it or even use it to its full potential, it's one of those Mons that's just like, oh yeah, I forgot that I had that on my team. Like, it gets access to moves like Mystical Fire of all things, which I feel is pretty cool. And even though Alcremie has a sort of gimmick that's kind of strange, I feel like at the same time it makes it unique. Like in Sword and Shield, I'm not sure if the event is still going on for you to get Gigantamax Alcremie through raids, but I'm just having a blast just capturing all of them and just seeing which one is it going to transform into, which one's it going to look like, because I have like one that's partly blue, one that's partly yellow, and sure, there are probably some people that don't like the fact that it's literally just baking in a sense. Like, you're literally just a baker trying to get all these Alcremie forms if you really want to. I do kind of want to name my box that has all of them, like a joke on that or something. I'll think of something. But Alcremie was a fine member to the team. It was just cool to have, and at the same time, I really like, what's its pre-evo's name? Milcery, whatever it's pronounced as. Alcremie is just a fine Mon. I feel like if I would have, like, maybe looked up the stats or looked up movesets, then I might have enjoyed it better, but I still like the design. Very solid design. Not sure how many people I'm going to upset with this, but number 9 is Scorbunny. Now, I know that when the Galar Mons first stages were all revealed, a lot of people didn't like Scorbunny. I don't know if anybody had a particular reason, or it's just that they preferred the other two starters more, but at the same time, I was looking at Scorbunny thinking, yeah, I can see it looks kind of weird, but at the same time, there's some sort of charm to it. Like, his mouth looks like Chespin's mouth, which I like Chespin, so that certainly helps. But I think what elevated it to actually be included on my list is the Pokemon anime. The new series where Ash and Go are scientists that are just helping Sakuragi around. The fact that Scorbunny's a major member of the team is just cool. And the fact that the anime shows him so early on and gives him a very interesting personality, a very fun personality at that. Especially when he kicks Ash in the butt. That might be taken out of context. But like I mentioned earlier, I didn't use any of the traditional starters on my journey, so I have no experience using Scorbunny. If given the possibility, I might grow to like Scorbunny more and decide to put him higher up on the list, but I feel like 9's a good spot. Here's what I was waiting for. Number 8 is what was essentially my starter for my Shield playthrough, Yamper. So I found out by looking on Cerebi before I got the games that Yamper can be found early on in the game. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be fun if I started the playthrough with a Yamper as my starter, much like Koharu has a Yamper in the anime? And so I decided to have Yamper be my starter. I can't think of what I named it off the top of my head. I should look at my game. I think I named it Odette because I wanted to name it Odie from Garfield, but since it was a girl, I decided to name it Odette. But ever since Yamper was revealed, I instantly fell in love with him. I wouldn't really call myself a dog person or a cat person because I don't have any actual pets of my own, but I have a stuffed dog that I have played around with ever since I was a kid. And I guess that's what kind of molded me to like dogs more than cats, just personally. But Yamper just looks so freaking adorable, even when they're showing him in the new opening, where Yamper's just hanging out, just wagging his tongue, just having a good old time. He's just happy to be alive. Now, the only thing that's keeping him from going higher than 8th is his evolution. I get no problem with it personally because it is my starter, so I do have that attachment. But I just feel like it's not a drastic change from Yamper, but it just looks kind of plain when you compare it to something like Yamper. Just personally. I mean, Yamper's got the little Thunderbolt tail. It would have been cool to see like a whole big Thunderbolt tail for Boltund instead. Just make it something more than just a plain old dog with yellow fur. Jumping right into another member that I used on my team is Dreadnought. Now, I remember when they were revealing all these different monsters, these different trailers, I had it in my mind saying, okay, I'm gonna pick Sobble as my starter, but at the same time, I really like Dreadnought. Now, at that point, I didn't know that it had a pre-evo, so I was wondering, how am I gonna make it so I have a Sobble and a Dreadnought? Because I don't want to overlap water typings like that, and at the same time, it's a quad weakness for Dreadnought, so that certainly doesn't help. And though I'm a bit ashamed to admit it, I did look up the leaks when they were going around, and found out that Dreadnought had a pre-evolution, and that its pre-evolution is able to be found early on in the game, just like Yamper. So, at the start of my journey, I didn't have a starter, I had Yamper instead for my starter, and I had a Choodle. And Choodle is, just like before with Yamper, is why Dreadnought is just this far back. I do like Dreadnought's design, but Choodle's is kind of strange. If it had a smaller head, maybe it would be a little more realistic, in a way to put it, if that makes sense. I mean, I like Dreadnought as it is, so I can't really fault it that much. Plus, I feel 7th is a good spot to be in. In 6th, we have the second starter to crack my list, Sobble. So, Sobble is, like I said before, the starter I was initially going to pick. Then, everybody that was on Sobble's bandwagon, or at least I can only assume a majority share, saw Inteleon, and they thought, nope, let's jump over to Grookey, let's go to Scorbunny. And people just didn't like the fact that Sobble evolved into something that looks so weird. Now me, I'm still getting used to it since it is still new, but at the same time it does look kind of cool. Plus the fact that it has a Gigantamax that literally is a huge tower with him with a sniper. That is just cool. Plus, Sobble appeals to a lot of people that are like me, shy, introverted, tend to cry a lot. Is this something that I should be saying in a YouTube video? After consideration, I think that my new favorite starter from this region is Grookey. And at the moment, that's what I'm saying. But I feel like in maybe 2 more months' time, I'll change my mind and instead I'll say no, Scorbunny's my favorite starter. But at the moment, Grookey's gonna sit very comfortably in 5th. Because I feel like out of the 3 starter lines, Grookey's is the one that I just like all the stages. Like for Scorbunny, I like Scorbunny on its own. Its evolutions are kind of half and half for me. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. With Sobble, Inteleon still looks kind of weird that it's hard for me to get used to it. But Grookey looks pretty cool. Thwackey, I don't expect much from a mid stage, so that's fine. But Rillaboom just looks cool. The fact that he has a big drum set is just hilarious. Plus, it's another monkey as a starter. So now all we need is a water type that's a monkey, that's a starter, and we'll have a triangle of fire, grass, and water for them. Even though we kind of already did in Gen 5. Never mind. I honestly didn't expect that Corviknight was going to be this high, but as I was running through everything, I thought, you know what? Corviknight does look pretty cool. Plus I have a kind of special spot in my heart for Corviknight because I actually hatched a shiny Rookidee when I believe I was watching Shady Penguin play Pokemon ranked battles, just random YouTube videos, and out of nowhere I just hatched a shiny Rookidee when I was trying to breed to get a hidden ability one. And I don't remember what I named it. I want to say I named it Valen from the guy that used the armor cards in the anime, Yu-Gi-Oh anime, but I don't think I did? I don't remember. I'm pretty sure whatever I came up with was probably a weird name since I named a Yamper Odette. Corviknight keeps the tradition of a bird at the start of the region that's a total boss if you can capture it and use it on your team. So in 3rd is Orbeetle. Now for the last couple of mons that I've had on my list, I didn't use them on my team, but when I was going through the later half of the story when I have to go back through Slumbering Weld to do the whole Zacian Zamazenta event, I actually ran into a shiny Orbeetle. And I was just thrown off guard, and it was just cool because it was the first shiny that I got in Sword and Shield. Plus, look at this thing. It just looked freaking menacing. I didn't think they'd be able to make a ladybug look terrifying, but they did. Plus the fact it's bug and psychic, which I don't think is a type that's ever been done before this. Much like how a lot of people before said that Rowlet is an improvement to an owl Pokemon when Hoothoot was already a thing, I feel like Orbeetle is a much needed improvement to a ladybug Pokemon. Personally, better than Ladion, even though they do kind of fulfill the same role with setting up screens and everything. But I think Orbeetle is actually having a higher base stat than Ledion, which makes sense since it's part of a 3-stage line instead of a 2-stage line. So my runner-up is Phalanx. Now, Phalanx isn't a mon that I used on my team. Actually, it's funny that Phalanx is on my list instead of Grapploct when they're both pure fighting types. But I mentioned before about how I looked up the leaks, and I did see Phalanx there before. It wasn't revealed before that. But when I got to the part of the game where there's just Phalanx running around everywhere, it just threw me off guard because I didn't know you'd be able to see it in the overworld like that. And it just looks cool. It has a very cool, unique move with no retreat. And I think this thing can get Defiant as its hidden ability. I still haven't got one with Defiant, but I can imagine that would be pretty cool. Plus the fact that it, with its animation, it's just dancing back and forth. I saw a clip on Twitter where it's just dancing back and forth a little bit faster than usual to Dragon Forces through the fire and flames. That was just hilarious. Plus the fact that one of my new favorite characters in Sword and Shield, B, uses one, just makes it even better. My number one is Hattrem. And it's funny because at the start of this video, I mentioned about how the mons that I used on my team are going to influence what I pick, but I didn't even use a Hattrem. I evolved it to Hatterene, but at the same time, there was that thing in the back of my mind thinking, you know what, Hattrem looks a lot better than Hatterene. Which is weird because it's kind of the opposite of starter Pokemon. Because with a lot of starter mons, you have the pretty cute first stage, the pretty menacing looking final stage, but for a lot of mid stages, they're kind of just like weird mixtures between the first and the last stage. I just like Hattrem a lot more. It just looks so freaking adorable. You can see it in the artwork right here. You can see it in its animation in battle. It's literally keeping itself up with its hat little dangly parts down there. It's just floating there while its hat is on the ground. It's just floating in midair. Well, I mean, it's not floating in midair. Its body is, but its hat's on the ground. You know what I mean. It just looks adorable. I love it. And I'm even to that point where I had one, I still have one, that has its hidden ability. I think it's Magic Bounce. And I think I gave it like Calm Mind, Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, and some other move or whatever. And it's holding Eviolite. I am that dedicated to Hattrem. I'm not making it evolve. It's at level 100 right now. It has Eviolite, which I feel like it might actually be better to have it have Eviolite. Even though it won't dish out as much damage, it might be bulkier than Hatterene. I'm not sure. But Hattrem is just adorable. Now, the Pokédex entries certainly tell another story, but just looking at this thing, it just looks so freaking cute. So that's my list for the top 10 Galar mons, in my opinion. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. If you have a different list than mine, feel free to leave that down in the comment section. Since I'm done with all the regions up to this point, I'm not sure if I'm going to do ones for Mega Evolutions, Gigantamaxes, Regional Variants, Galar, Alola. I don't know, because I could really do stuff like that. I could even do one for top 10 gym leaders, if anything, but that might be kind of a stretch. I'm not sure. I just wanted to get Galar out of the way, just so I have all the regions up to this point finished. And yes, I know that there is DLC that's coming out, and there might be new favorite mons there. But at the moment, the mons that I'm seeing are just sort of okay. But that is it for me, and I will see you in the next episode. Momentai.